Public Affairs very much thanks Residco, our sole corporate underwriter, for helping to make the production of this show possible.
What can you do as Attorney General of the state of Illinois? Is there anything you can do if the prosecutors in various...
Well, I just said, as we started this whole thing,
What can you do?
the interest of the Attorney General is for the state, for the people of this state, and as I said from the beginning, it says people of the state of Illinois versus the defendant. And we have an interest in every criminal case filed.
A subset of crime is illegal immigration, ICE fighting with so-called protesters. Some are legitimate protesters, some are going beyond. Bob Fioretti, sort it out for the people who are seeing clashes, citizens clashing with ICE, some people getting killed. Who's right, who's wrong? Sort it out for us.
Well, people have a right to protest here under the Constitution, as you have that book right there that defines it. However, at the same time, they are law enforcement agents. They are governed by the federal government. They are here to protect our citizens. The 4,500, 5,000 violent, illegal immigrants that have come into the city of Chicago, and I don't know how many across the state, should be taken, put in the detention, and when possible, under our laws, deported. Simple as that.
Berkowitz is my name and politics is our game. This is a two-part show. We're doing part one now with Bob Fioretti. He is the Republican candidate for Attorney General of the state of Illinois. It's a very, very important position. You'll be hearing on these issues from Bob on crime, on illegal immigration, and part two, election integrity in schools. What does the Attorney General have to do with street crime? Everybody thinks it's the state's attorney. Are they wrong?
If you've ever read a criminal complaint against somebody, it says people of the state of Illinois versus. That means in every lawsuit that is a criminal lawsuit, the people of the state of Illinois have an interest, and that interest goes to the Attorney General, who can intervene on any one of those type of cases.
So when we say street crime, give people, what are we talking about?
Street crime is everything here, especially in the city of Chicago. Look, I've run for other offices, and there's no doubt. I switched to the Republican Party here because, like millions of other Americans across the board, and even in the state of Illinois, people have seen that the Democratic Party left us. They've abandoned faith. They've abandoned families. They've abandoned fiscal responsibility, and they've abandoned freedom that's guaranteed by our Constitution. I'm running to make sure that that victims are represented, that we restore the rule of law, and that we break this whole cycle of crime and corruption that we see, not just in Chicago and Cook County, but throughout the state of Illinois.
Right, and people may have followed what's gone on and is going on in California, because the Illinois Party, to be blunt, has had some tough times of late. Go back to the last quarter of the last century, they had the governorship for that entire quarter. Jim Thompson fed into Jim Edgar, into Jim Ryan, George Ryan. George Ryan ran into some problems, but 25 years, Illinois was a very Republican state with only a Republican governor. In the first quarter of this century, only one time have they had the Republican Party has had the governor, and that was Bruce Rauner, and he ran into problems. So, Bob, can you do what was done in California? They had problems, the Republican Party, but we're seeing it now. Steve Hilton running for governor, and he's now in a runoff, and the Republicans have a chance in that state to bring about big change. And they almost had a chance in Los Angeles. They had a guy named Pratt. who again was not a politician. And Bob, you're not a politician. And Pratt did not make the runoff, but you're not trying to get in the runoff, Bob. You're trying to become the Attorney General. Do I have it right?
That's correct. It's head to head against my opponent, the Democrat, who's been in there for 8 years. And let's look at what he stands for. I mean, for too often, the insiders have written the rules, and who pays the price? Families here in this state. And that's why families are leaving this state. The Attorney General is supposed to be the people's attorney, not the governor's attorney, and not the politicians, not the donors, not the insiders. But today, this office, the Attorney General of the state of Illinois, has forgotten who he serves. And as your Attorney General, when I'm elected on November 3rd, I'm going to fight for a lot of common sense values that we all share. Stand up for victims instead of the criminals, for citizens instead of illegal aliens, for parents instead of teachers' unions, and for taxpayers instead of the corrupt politicians that have been running this state. And as always, I am going to stand up and stand alongside with our police who try to protect us day in and day out. That's my mission.
It starts there because if there's a crime, it's been committed, a crime, and the police look to see, is there a suspect? Do they have probable cause to arrest? And if they do, they arrest. But across all these crimes in recent years, Chicago has an arrest rate, and I think others are similar, whether it's Bloomington, whether it's Peoria, Decatur, around the state of Illinois, similar numbers. 5% is their general arrest rate. When they look at murders, when they look at criminal sexual assault, when they looked at aggravated battery, 5% is the arrest rate. And Bob, after they arrest, what do they have to do?
Well, it's a long way to go after the arrest.
What's the first thing they have to try to do if it's a violent crime, especially if they've arrested somebody? There's a whole sequence.
And well, first of all, you gave me a series of maybe what should we call them, from wire points showing the arrest rate here in the city of Chicago. I have to tell you, the arrest rate, the numbers are for the amount of crimes that are not even reported. The wait time for when you do a 911 is becoming more and more longer. And our people.
Just so you know, more than 600,000 calls in Chicago 911. Half of them, they never get a response.
And that becomes obviously that leads to a whole issue. When I was in the city council, and don't forget, I was elected twice under a lot of opposition from the Democratic Party because I was so independent. And they tried to do whatever they could to stop me from being elected, put up sham candidates, gave lots of money to some of the candidates, had hundreds of workers out in the street. Now, we talk about this because when I was in the city council, at every meeting, they would honor a police officer, a firefighter, and a citizen for outstanding work that was done. I would always say at the end of my speech honoring the police officer that let's not forget, when somebody calls 911 and they get somebody on the line, and then by the time they hang up, if the police officer or the squad car is not there, they're upset. Well, it takes a while to get to whether it's 30 seconds or so, but people want immediate responses to 911. And the way you do it is by having more police officers on the street who are highly qualified, who can do the job for the citizens of the city of Chicago. And that's where the state's attorney and the attorney general steps in and does the job that they need to do to make sure it's a good arrest and then to convict that individual.
Because we have 102 counties in the state of Illinois, so roughly we have 102 state's attorneys.
And they're all elected, yes.
They're all elected, and they vary quite a bit because we'll get to the Safety Act, which a lot of people thought wasn't such a good idea. But there are two counties where they had state's attorneys who thought it was a great idea. That would be Kim Fox in Cook County, and somebody, I forgot his name, in Lake County.
Correct.
But I think it's really true. Most, whether it's 80, 90 of the other counties, they don't like the Safety Act. They got state's attorneys, whether they're Democrat or Republican, they believe in a sequence that should occur, especially for violent crimes. Tell us about that sequence.
Well,
It starts with investigating and arresting somebody with probable cause. Where does it need to go in the state's attorney's office from the next step after the arrest?
well, rather than go through the whole detail, because I think we can be here for most of the show on what needs to be done and how.
Well, give me the core things.
As you just said, a pure investigation to make sure it's a valid arrest. They have the right individual. They have to line up the victims as we go
They
through.
got somebody, and say they got somebody, one person, they got to do something with that person because trial's not immediate. So while they're waiting for trial, should they have a hearing so somebody, the judge, can determine, are they dangerous? Are they?
Well, you ask an interesting point because there's a variety of circumstances you have to look at during a detention hearing on whether that individual should be detained, especially on a violent crime. And they look at whether the individual is a threat to the community, whether he's a threat to the victim or the victim's families, and is he a flight risk? And I say he or she could be both, depending on what the crime was.
So as the state's attorney of Cook County, we got a new one, Kim Fox, after 8 years placed. You ran against her, right? So you know something about Eileen O'Neill Burke.
Right.
Can she be trusted? She's been there, what now? Almost more than a year, right?
She's been, yep, absolutely.
Is she getting her assistant state's attorneys to do the job, to demand a hearing, to make the case, and make sure the judge toes the line? If they're dangerous, then the person is detained.
I've sat in several detention hearings, and the state's attorneys that are doing the job as much as they can, but they're faced with
the state of Illinois. Are you checking into?
No, I haven't checked into
You
the
need to
state.
be asking people.
I am asking state's attorneys those questions on what's happening. In fact, just before I came to this show, I was talking to a former state's attorney from downstate Illinois on a very difficult case and what would be done and what needs to be done. And I appreciated his input to me and questioning on what, and I looked at his case or former case that he had. Now I say this because, we have a system of judges that are really controlled by a variety of circumstances and politicians who put them there.
Across the state?
No, especially in Cook County. I know Cook County better than the other counties and the 400 plus judges that we have here. I've talked to judges downstate. I was with several in the last few weeks, as a matter of fact.
Why are these so important, those judges? Explain, because people should know. You went to University of Illinois, Champaign. You were the student body president of that place. Then you went NIU, Northern Illinois University. I think you were in the first graduating law school class, right?
Right.
And you've taught there, adjunct professor. You know what the hell's going on if you teach it, right?
Correct.
You understand how to litigate. You know how to try a case. What have you tried? Dozens, hundreds? How many cases have you tried often?
Well over hundreds. I've tried cases in and around this whole state, various counties, and virtually all the states around us.
What's the word? If you were a prosecutor working in one of the counties, Cook or others, what do you got to do as a prosecutor? You got the arrest, then they're detained at trial. What's the magic word? What are you doing? What are you doing at trial? Prosecuting, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Fox, we were told, didn't want to prosecute violence.
Well, there's a variety. I'm not sure what Kim Fox is doing. Her role was she came out of abolish jails method, and that's what we see what's happening. And that whole thing has transformed our criminal justice system as we go on now, especially in Illinois. People are not happy, and whether you're a head of police, chief of police, chief judges throughout the state, are all feeling the effects of the Safety Act and what needs to be done here.
So they need to prosecute, and if they prosecute and they've got the right person and they've got a good jury who's fair and impartial, well, then they're trying to convict.
Well, and you just said it, you need a fair and impartial jury. And you need a judge who's up there who calls balls and strikes and sees it the right way. And then this jury has to make a decision. I hope that we have good prosecutors and at the same time, good defenders of the individual. That way you can get before that fair and impartial jury and have the judge who makes the decisions.
But it's an important decision, there are many important decisions by the judge, but if that person is convicted by a jury of his peers, well, then the judge gets to decide the sentence, right?
Correct.
And the sentence, what if he says 2 years probation? What does that mean? Tell people, does that mean the person goes to prison for 2 years?
No, that means just that they're out. There could be all kinds of different requirements on their probation, and as they walk out the door.
Some people who are guilty as hell, the jury has said that, and it's a bad crime, it's a murder, it's a rape. Do we want them walking out without doing any time? Do we want them having a 2-year sentence?
Well, I would be objecting.
Tell people what you would instruct or advise the judges who are new to the system.
Well, I would be asking for the maximum sentence on some of these crimes.
Is it happening across the state? Are they asking and are they getting it from the judges?
Answer, I have not reviewed all the numbers, so I can't tell you that answer. But I'm going to take a hard look at it, and we'll make sure our assistant attorney generals are intervening where necessary and help the local state's attorneys where necessary.
What can you do as Attorney General of the state of Illinois? Is there anything you can do if the prosecutors in various...
Well, I just said, as we started this whole thing, the interest of the Attorney General is for the state, for the people of this state, and as I said from the beginning, it says people of the state of Illinois versus the defendant. And we have an interest in every criminal case filed.
So you can do something, you can intervene, right?
That's right.
If that's not happening.
No, it hasn't, and
you say to Eileen O'Neill Burke,
without getting into subjective, we're going to have to analyze things in the future. So, and see what's happening county by county, case by case.
Well, we know something. We don't have to wait for the future because Kwame Raoul, who's your opponent, has been there for 8 years. How many times did he look at Kim Foxx and say, "You're not doing your job"? He asked the court to intervene. How many times did he do that?
I don't know about that because I don't know what discussions they ever had, so I won't guess.
Wouldn't you hear about it if it happened? Wouldn't you? Like Kwame, we're not against him. He's been on the show when he was a state rep, state senator. I hope you'll come on now as an attorney general. We haven't been able to get you. But I'll ask you.
I'd like to have him for a debate. Maybe you can sign him for a debate.
You could ask him, how many times did you intervene? I suspect the answer is 0, but Kwame, come on and tell me if I'm wrong.
That sounds interesting. Good. Let's see if he does.
So that whole other problem we said, a subset of crime, is illegal immigration, ICE fighting with so-called protesters. Some are legitimate protesters, some are going beyond. Bob Fioretti, sort it out for the people who are seeing clashes, citizens clashing with ICE, some people getting killed. Who's right, who's wrong? Sort it out for us.
Well, people have a right to protest here under the Constitution, as you have that booklet there that defines it. However, at the same time, they are law enforcement agents. They are governed by the federal government. They are here to protect our citizens. The 4,500, 5,000 violent, illegal immigrants that have come into the city of Chicago, and I don't know how many across the state, should be taken, put in the detention, and when possible, under our laws, deported. Simple as that.
How many people have came across under President Biden in his 4-year term? How many unvetted illegal immigrants do you think came across the border?
Well, they're talking maybe as many as 2 million, 2 million, 20 million, excuse me.
Yeah, so somewhere at least 8 to 10 million, 2 million a year, 4 years. Now, all of those people are basically all are embedded. They're not all dangerous.
No, they're not.
So the problem is, you want to go for the worst of the worst first. How do you decide who maybe have information they committed a violent crime back in their home country before they came here, or they've been accused or maybe even been convicted of a violent crime here now? Those are your people you want to deport, right?
That
That's
is correct.
certainly your
Right.
priority, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so we have a sanctuary state. We have a sanctuary cities in Illinois, and they're under the so-called Trust Act. What does that Trust Act prohibit? What does it allow? How does that affect what we're talking about here?
Well, you may have summed it up because sometimes on some of the questions that you're saying are, we can either talk for a while or talk and not get to the heart of what they are, but the Trust Act creates the sanctuary state.
Get to the heart of it.
And that's it. There we go.
We'll take your advice.
So, the problem that is the issue here is what does the federal government and what can the federal government do in terms of detaining those that have been here, the violent ones that we are talking about. And under the Supremacy Clause, it's pretty easy. The answer is they have the authority to do that, period.
Who has the authority?
The federal government, the ICE
But
agents.
first, the county people who have the sheriff, somebody who has control of that county jail, has to give the feds a call and say, "We got a guy here. He seems to be dangerous. I think we'll want to take over. And if you folks want to prosecute, then you can do that." Would you advise the counties and their jails to do that, work with ICE? And are they doing that? Well, they're doing it in Indiana, other states. They're doing it in Florida. They're doing it in Tennessee. They don't seem to have the problems we're having, but they're not doing it in Illinois, right?
That is correct.
Sanctuary state, right?
Well, that is correct too. But then, because nobody's saying the Supremacy Clause has a greater role than what's happening here in this state over the Trust Act.
So enter Bob Fioretti, Illinois Attorney General. If you're the Illinois Attorney General, and that's not happening, you could file a lawsuit, right, on behalf of the people.
That is
right?
correct. Yep.
And would you do that, Bob?
Yes.
And what would you ask?
Well, you're saying, what would I ask? Well, again, I'm not going to speculate, but I'm going to tell you it's wrong. Number one, they have the authority to do what they need to do to capture and deal with the violent, illegal immigrants that have come into this city, come into this state, and bring them under custody.
And when they have them in the jail, they can pick up the phone and go to ICE and say, "Come pick him up. It's right here. Here's our address. We will release this person to your custody," right?
And that is correct.
So that's one of the things you might ask for in a lawsuit against who? Who's running this place? Is that Governor Pritzker? Is that Kwame Raoul?
It depends on the county.
locality?
I know there's a lot of sheriffs and a lot of county administrators in jails that will not cooperate with as you just said, they will help and turn them over to ICE.
They will
Yep.
do that.
Yes.
Some would say that's illegal, but they'll take the.
No, but
You would say it's not.
it depends on how yes,
Okay.
I would.
All right, folks. Time goes so fast. When you're talking with Bob Fioretti about this key issue, running and being the Illinois Attorney General, which very likely, or at least very possibly, Bob Fioretti could be your next Attorney General, and dealing with street crime so differently than you've seen from the current incumbent, and dealing with illegal immigration so differently. If you like that show, thank you for watching part 1, because next week, part 2, we got Bob Fioretti coming back. And we'll be talking about election integrity in a way you haven't heard a lot of. I think you'll like it. And we'll be talking about the schools, because guess what? That might be part of the purview of who, Bob? Schools and election integrity. Who could deal with those issues?
The Attorney General to the best of his ability.
So you raise your hand.
Yep.
Should we swear you in right now?
If only. Yes.
All right, 4 more months. You come back next week and watch part 2 of Bob Fioretti, candidate for Illinois for Illinois Attorney General.